Hi everyone. So, this video is gonna be about Fnaf and Lolita. Both of them. Again. Now, first about Fnaf. The Secret of the Mimic trailer came out, and it has a release date, thank God, on June 13th of this year. It's gonna come out in the summer. Or at least technically the summer, because the summer usually starts around June 20th or June 21st. But that's okay. Actually, yep, June 13th. Friday the 13th. Great. Anyways. So, thank God that The Secret of the Mimic will come out during the summer. I've been thinking about, especially just recently, about the FNAF theories, especially people still theorizing the same thing over and over again, and it keeps happening multiple times. Especially about Midnight Motorist or even Golden Freddy Cassidy, But also about Lolita. I completely understand that Lolita would be difficult to adapt due to the actual story being in the perspective of Humbert, the main character, who's a manipulative, narcissistic pedophile, obsessed with a 12-year-old girl, who he nicknames, funnily enough, Lolita, due to the little girl's name, real name Dolores, being nicknamed Lo, and since her nickname is Lo, Humbert nicknames her Lolita as a way to, prioritize their relationship. Lolita, Lo-Li-Ta, get it? If you know, you know. However, I feel like there were missed opportunities, especially now. If anyone would have been interested of adapting Lolita, I feel like people need to stick with the actual time period where the story takes place in 1947. It needs to be accurate to the original source material, especially due to Dolores' actual age in the book. In the book, she's 12 years old, of course. 12 years old. However, in the movie adaptations, Stanley Kubrick's 1962 film starring James Mason and Sue Lyon, and Adrian Lynn's 1997 adaptation starring Jeremy Irons and Dominique Swain. Now, in the 1962 film, it's never established what Dolores' age actually is. It sort of implies that she's in her late teens, or mid to late teens. However, people have discussed about her age, or at least talked about her age, due to the fact that, due to obviously restrictions with the Hays Code during the time. The production wanted to age up Lolita to at least 14 to 15 years old, or at least in her actual teen years. But there was a catch. So, despite the fact that Dolores would be aged up to around 14 or 15. Sue Lyon, during the time, was indeed 14 years old during filming, but she looked a little older, especially due to her physical body, where she had a decently big breast size, and so she would pass on for like um, a girl in her late teens, probably at least 18 years old. But Sue Lyon was clearly 14 years old at the time, even though it's never implied, like I said, about Dolores' actual age in the film. People have said, especially on either Lolita was supposed to be like 14, 15, or even 16. However, Wikipedia says that Dolores is supposed to be 17 years old. Yeah, that's weird. So for the sake of my own fucking sanity, I'm just gonna go with the fact that Sue Lyon was 14 years old, and that's probably also supposed to be Dolores' age in the film. I mean, similar to Dominic Swain, who was also 14 years old during filming of the 1997 film, and Dolores is actually 14 years old in the film as well. So 14 years old for both Sue Lyon, Dominic Swain, and Dolores, to put it simply. And both versions of Dolores, at the end of the film, taking place 3 years later, Dolores is supposed to be 70 years old, and even though Dolores died in the book due to childbirth complications, in the 1962 film, it's never stated if she actually died or not, so you could say that she survives in that version and probably needs some desperate help of therapy. Anyway, I would want to think that people need to be more accurate and much more cautious about how they want to adapt Lolita, especially about the character of Dolores being a literal 12-year-old girl. There were times like Pretty Baby starring Brooke Shields, or Taxi Driver starring Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster was 13 years old playing a 12-year-old prostitute, and Brooke Shields was 11 years old in Pretty Baby. I feel like they were much more closer and accurate to Dolores' age rather than Sue Lyon and Dominic Swain. Like I said, both of the girls were 14 years old during filming of the subsequent Lolita films. And, well, I would want someone to be faithful to the source material, to the book, especially at the time period and Dolores' age, and what would be shown on screen, to be set in Humbert's perspective, when in reality Dolores is a literal child, and sure, she does flirt with Humbert, but she's still a child, and it's not actually her fault that she's being taken advantage of by a literal 30-year-old man. But at the same time, I'm probably glad that Lolita will never be adapted again, because it shouldn't have in the first place, especially due to the 1962 adaptation, where James B. Harris, the producer of the film, was mostly the one to like meddle in the whole thing about Sue Lyon's portrayal of Lolita, where he wanted to make her a literal sex object to sympathize with Humber, to come across as a love story. And where he said there was a marriage plot line which was later scrapped, and for good reasoning, due to Vladimir obviously not wanting it to happen, because why should a 12-year-old girl marry a 37-year-old man? But James B. Harris said that it was perfectly legal for a 12-year-old girl to marry a 37-year-old with parental consent, when in reality, he's a lying asshole. He's a lying, delusional man. And I feel like Stanley Kubrick, James B. Harris, and Bert Stern, the photographer who took the pictures of Soon Line with the heart-shaped sunglasses, should have never been involved to make or at least promote Lolita in the first place. Like, why trust them to create a film that's not faithful to the book, like, at all? And, oh yeah, about FNAF. So, I saw a video, I didn't exactly watch it, but I saw the thumbnail. And it was basically some of the theorists, discussing about the FNAF timeline and maybe theories. Like I said, I haven't watched it, but I'm only gonna bring up Midnight Motors because obviously it's the most mentioned theory of all time, and even though people try to solve it, in reality it's probably still not solved, at least in my opinion. I mean, it's solved in some ways, but in most ways. But the main thing is that some of the people like ID Fantasy, Desk Man, or some others believe that the crying child was the runaway. Meanwhile, others like Siri Squawks, Underscore, or some others believe that Michael is the runaway, and to me the latter is most likely the option because due to the timeline of it all, Charlotte would have been after the crying child died, and yeah. And I just want to say this. Considering the connections between FNAF and Lolita, I'm gonna say this, and I might sound crazy, but if you theorize about FNAF, especially about certain things that happen in the story, like Midnight Motors, Golden Freddy, The Mimic, etc., you shouldn't want to theorize about those things because it can be tiring, frustrating, difficult to understand, especially to people like me. Like, sometimes we're trying to be simple, and that's okay. Some of you theorists are acting exactly like MatPat, going absolutely crazy. Please,